Hi, this is Billie Beene here with a flash U.S. news update. Today's date, February 26, 2024, about 7 a.m. Texas time, episode 142. That recent Att&T outage, was it the sun or a hack? Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot, subscriber, suspicious observers with Ben Davidson, Hal Turner, plus. So let's get started. We know that on Thursday, we had 3 solar flares within 24 hours. So we had right at midnight on February 21, a 1.7, right after midnight, a 1.8, and then a 6.3. Now, and then on Thursday, we had a widespread outage that began with Att&T, I believe, and spread to other carriers. And these other carriers are Cricket, Reddit, T-Mobile, Verizon, Consumer Cellular, US Cellular, Google, iCloud, Apple Support, YouTube, Vimeo, LinkedIn, Xfinity, Wells Fargo, a bank, Facebook, Instagram, Microsoft 365, as brought out by Ben Davidson with suspicious observers. Now, Ben puts forth, and it's a reasonable position, that the outage was too widespread and it was spotty. I have anecdotal information from my Patriot subscribers, things like, my phone works, but my wife's doesn't. We're in the same house and we have the same carrier. But my review of these anecdotal reports turned out that many times the individuals, even in the same household, would have different phones. Now, that part of Ben Davidson's position is it was most likely a solar flare effect because of the widespread different carriers and companies that were affected. And I can see that. Now, my position is it was both. I believe it was a hack that was correlated timing-wise with the solar flares. Now, many are saying, oh, it was the Russian government. It was the Chinese government. I believe it was the deep state. We can identify as most of us are familiar with the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, Klaus Schwab, the World Bank, the UN, Soros, Gates, and so on. No, I believe that this was a software malware put into many systems as far back as 2020. And I can see Ben Davidson's position that it was too widespread and spotty. It had to be the sun. And as I said, I think it was both. Now, Att&T came out today and said they're going to reimburse their customers 1 day of service and give credits on their accounts. And also, I noticed this afternoon, the CEO of Att&T had put out a formal letter and was communicating by email to all of his employees, reiterating that it was a problem at Att&T. They were trying to expand their network and doing some software changes. I submit this is a cover for the extent of the hack that took place. Now, and I believe it was correlated with the X flares and that these deep state are can access information about space that only militaries and governments have. Many times what we get on our most popular site, spaceweather.com, is information after a space event occurs. But for the militaries and governments and the deep state, they have information before it occurs. And I believe they timed this hack with the solar flares. Now, the background on this hack goes back to 2020. It's called SolarWinds. That was a primary software writer for government, and they had what happened was the deep state then went through this company. They copied their digital ID, and then they were able to go down to the many customers using this software and do, like we get an update from Microsoft. Well, we just download it. Because they had stolen the digital ID, they could go down to these different systems, and they would think it was their software company sending an upgrade, and they would download it. Now, this hacking occurred in March of 2020. It wasn't discovered until December. And it had infiltrated many types of businesses. It was SolarWinds. Orion was a software for the U.S. government, the U.S. Treasury, the U.S. Department of Commerce, some utility companies in the U.S., most Fortune 500 companies, the CDC, the DOJ, Los Alamos Lab, Boeing. Outside the U.S., it impacted the UK, British government, their offices, and including their signals intel group. It also impacted NATO, the European Union, and AstraZeneca. So it was a widespread software that went in place and was left undetected for 8 months. Now, this information is coming out from Hal Turner, the intel groups globally, and industry insiders believe it was a hack. It related back to the solar wind, which they believe came into their system. Now, from March to December of 2020, when it was discovered, then the IT people could take out the malware, they thought. But it's believed now that that SolarWinds Plus hack in 2020 went around the firewalls and left embedded bugs, which were dormant, asleep, ready to be activated. And this is coming out that it's believed this was a trial run, and that's why it was so spotty. They were just attempting to take down or get information from different systems. It's believed by intel groups around the world and industry insiders in the U.S. for these various companies. This was a trial run. I submit, since they correlated it with X flares, that on the next X flares, we may likely see a much more in-depth hack coming to the U.S., to the U.K., to Europe, and other locations. So what can we, the people, do? I submit that if this occurs, It's very likely, like the banks, they'll just shut down their systems immediately. So it would be good to have cash and food and water. This concludes my flash update. I love you, and I'll see you soon.